One of the chief Democratic skeptics to the plan is Congressman Anthony Weiner of New York, who joins us from Capitol Hill this morning as well. Good morning, sir. As we heard a little bit from Nancy there, and we heard from Senator Reid. Senator Durbin has come out and said, "Hey, you know what? I loathe parts of this, but I understand the predicament we're in." Do you see anyone in the House now starting to change their tune and perhaps being more in favor of this?
Look, we had a meeting of Democrats with Vice President Biden, and there were several people who stood up and said that they supported the deal, but many, many more who stood up and who were concerned about it. And it all comes down to the same thing, and that is that who it is that we're fighting for is Democrats, so the middle class, those struggling to make it. All those predictions about how much economic growth will be created by this, all of those new jobs would be created by the things we wanted: extension of unemployment insurance and middle-class tax cuts. An estate tax adds exactly 0 jobs. A tax cut for billionaires, virtually none. So this is only a question about what is the best thing to do, and many of us believe the president just didn't fight hard enough for a good deal.
You say he didn't fight hard enough. Obviously, this is a very limited window, because if these tax cuts were to stay in place, this needs to be passed by the end of the month. Some might look at this, though, and say the president is actually doing what the American people want, especially based on the results of the elections in November.
Well, if you look at the polls all throughout this debate, more than 2/3 of Americans say they support the idea that Democrats have always advocated. People who make $250,000 and less get a tax cut. The rest of the money either goes to deficit reduction or other targeted incentives. You know, I think what we've seen is in recent days, we've seen the American people respond when the president goes out and pitches this plan. Well, imagine if he would have done the exact same thing for a plan that would have been much better if he'd done that over the last several months. It didn't really happen. And you say we're up to the last minute. Yeah, well, this deadline was creeping up on us for 10 years. I would have loved to see the president do a much better job of selling the idea of the things that we need to do to fight for our country and our middle class, not necessarily the exceedingly well-to-do.
There's going to need to be some more compromise, obviously, as we see this new Congress come in January. Compromise is not always, it's been said that the sign of a good compromise is when neither side is very happy. As you look forward, are you concerned about what could come for compromise in the future? Because you paint a picture like the president really isn't behind you.
No, look, my concern is not so much that there's compromise and that deals get done. That's what happens. That's how you make laws. My concern is I see a trend here where the president seems to think that his job is to count votes and then try to make a deal based on that. That's what we in legislatures do. Presidents have more arrows in their quiver. I want to see him get out and do what Ronald Reagan did when he wanted tax reform: travel the country, fight for the values that he cares about, and then if you need to compromise, you do it. Unfortunately, I didn't see that full-throated advocacy from the president. And I also want to make something clear. My concerns come from him. I want him to succeed. I want him to be a success. Many Republicans, frankly, want him to fail. I'm not in that camp, and I hope he sees the critique that many of us on the left are giving him in that lens.
Have you spoken with the president personally at this point?
I haven't. I haven't, but I spoke to the vice president yesterday, and we had a good exchange the way the Democratic Party frequently have.
Boy, we could read a lot into the word good in that. We're going to have to leave it there, but this is definitely not the last time we will speak of it. Congressman Anthony Weiner, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you.